Welcome to Evening Rounds, a podcast that takes you behind the scenes in medicine. Tonight, we're talking with Dr. Shama Williams, a cardiologist shaped by a Bermuda childhood rooted in family, a love of music, and a belief that healing takes the whole team. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. Shama, welcome to Evening Rounds.
Thank you.
When you were growing up as a young boy, did you see yourself living and working and practicing medicine at Loma Linda University Health?
Never in a million years.
Why?
Never. I don't know that I had Loma Linda on the radar. We would grow up in Seventh Adventist Church. We could see what Loma Linda was like, what it looked like. We could see the beautiful pictures. But my imagination never took me to Loma Linda. My imagination always had me in Bermuda.
So Bermuda is where you're from.
Bermuda is where I'm from.
Talk to us about Bermuda.
So if you guys don't know anything about Bermuda, know this. If you look on the world map and you go as far north as you could, you'll get to heaven. And then just south of heaven is where you'll run into Bermuda.
Oh, I love that.
It's a wonderful
The
description.
most beautiful place on earth.
It is, yeah.
And it was definitely a wonderful place to grow up and to live.
Okay, if I'm looking on the map and I'm looking in the Atlantic Ocean,
Just below heaven.
I get it, just below heaven. But if I'm doing the Google map and I'm expanding this, where do I see Bermuda? Like, where is it in relation to the United States?
So if you look at a map or a globe, Bermuda is going to be located about 700 miles off of the coast of North Carolina, Cape Hatteras.
What an incredible place to grow up. Was that just such a fun childhood?
Oh, it was wonderful. I can remember the times where we would just spend all days on the beach. We would be able to go hang out with our friends, our family, kind of our cousins, our brothers, and be able to just spend the day in the water. If we went to a place called Admiralty House, we could do cliff jumping. I wasn't a diver. Some of my family could dive. I never really liked the idea of going head first into the water. So I would usually do a footer. But those were some of the fun times that we got to experience growing up.
And when you say we, you mean 8 of you in your family? 7
Yes,
brothers?
It's not all me and my 7 brothers. That's correct.
So your mom must have had all the patience in the world.
My mom is a saint. But one of the things that she always told us was if you raise the first one and the second one in the right way, the other ones will usually follow suit. And so certainly we all looked up to our older brothers as examples. We never told them that. So if they watch this, it's not true. But of course, when you're a younger sibling, you look up to the examples of your older siblings. And my mom and my dad definitely did their due diligence in raising us.
So where are you in the numbers?
So I'm number 6 of 8.
Okay.
So you had a lot of good examples to look up to.
A lot of great examples to look up to.
I love that. And your grandmother was very influential in your life too.
Absolutely. So my grandmother and my mother are from the beautiful island of Antigua. And my great-grandmother had the foresight to own some land in Bermuda. And that became the homestead that we grew up in Bermuda. We live in a place called Pembroke, which is a parish in Bermuda, on Frizzell's Road. Sometimes when people think of the area, it's like what good thing could come from Frizzell's Road, similar to what good thing could come from Nazareth when people talked about Jesus, because of some of the things that sometimes happened in that environment. But that being said, my grandmother was a praying woman, and she ensured that when raising her children, that prayer and God were one of the central focuses of our lives. Granny was always there. That's what we called her. She stayed in an upstairs house or upstairs apartment, and we stayed in the downstairs apartment for most of our lives. There was a period of time where my mom actually had me start to live upstairs with my grandmother Of course, I couldn't see it. I wanted to be with my brothers. I wanted to be one of the big boys and, be able to hang out with them.
Yeah.
But certainly being able to live with my grandmother in that setting has indelibly impressed my mind and truly showed the usefulness and the need for having Christ as the center of my life.
So she really influenced your faith.
Absolutely.
So your brothers and you still stay in contact?
Yeah, we stay in contact with WhatsApp, we video chat, and we sometimes call.
And talk to us about education in your family. Was that a central part of your upbringing? And
so education was always a central part of our upbringing. My mom, talked about the fact that with having so many of us, there were 8 of us, we didn't have a lot of money. And so working to do your best was one of the best ways that you could try to ensure your future success because there are opportunities for things like scholarships inside of Bermuda. So we were often pushed to excel. They didn't have to push us that hard, though, because I think innate in us was this desire to want to be successful as well. And so your parents were pushed to a point, but at the end of the day, it's still left to the individual person to decide that they're going to go that extra step or that extra mile.
Yeah.
So was medicine your path from a young boy, or how did you get to where you are now?
I think like most people, I probably cycled through, I was a boy, I wanted to be maybe a policeman. At one point, I wanted to be a teacher. But it was probably in about 6th grade that I decided that medicine was something that was actually quite cool. And it's funny. I went back and I looked I'm dating myself. In 1995, there were these books known as Childcraft. And these Childcraft books were special educational books that came out, I believe, every year or so, or every 2 years. They would describe various aspects of life and various occupations and give children different activities that they could do to learn more about it. So whether it's about astronomy, if it's about something in mathematics, whatever it is. By 1995, there was a book that came out that was called Our Amazing Body. And one of the things that was really exciting about that particular book was that it was one of the first times where the cover was completely in color. So usually they just had like a little small slit that had some pictures. But this time it was kind of an animated picture on the front that was in color. There was a heart and some red blood cells. There was someone who was exercising. You could see all the musculoskeletal system and some lungs and things like that. And so I remember I used to kind of flip through this book and just marvel at the human body.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I found that a lot of my academics was not very, very challenging. And as a consequence, it wasn't very interesting. But learning about the human body was something that was both challenging and interesting. So in 6th grade, that's when I kind of had an idea that medicine was for me. It wasn't until about 11th or 12th grade that I knew that cardiology was what I wanted to do.
You knew that early. That's so,
when
what's
you
so
know,
funny is,
you know. All right.
what's so crazy is a book influenced you as a child too,
100%.
right?
Yeah, the Mayo brothers story was inspirational for me. But great minds, when you know it's cardiology, you know it's cardiology.
I mean, I need to invest in some of these books for my children. That is incredible that you knew that young.
I mean, but it's one of the coolest systems. It's an organ that starts before you're born, and it literally never stops.
But couldn't you make that same argument for the brain?
I mean, yes, you could make that same argument for the brain, but the brain doesn't move.
Okay, you got me on that one. You got me on that one.
Think about it for a minute. The heart is an organ, but it's a muscle. And unlike your biceps, when you do a set of 10 or 12 reps, you got to rest. Yeah. Think for a moment when your heart's working and it says, I think I'm going to stop for an hour.
Catastrophic.
So this is a muscle that never stops. It will beat 4 billion times in your life.
Never stops.
I mean,
how cool is that?
But that's fascinating that even as a child, that was something that sparked in you, that this would be such a dynamic field to go into.
I can tell you, Shama's had he has a unique gift, and we're going to flesh this out a bit. I had the great privilege of working with Shama when he was one of our cardiology fellows. And there's something next level about Shama. And it's the expectation that the work is done when the work is done. The expectation that someone who doesn't know you entrusts their entire life to you at some crucial moment in time. And the respect and the demand for perfection that it deserves, I saw innately in you the first day you were here.
Absolutely.
Where'd you get that?
I actually think it comes from my dad. We would do our utmost best to be successful in our schoolwork. And I can recall coming home, bringing my spelling test, being proud for my 98%. And the question would be asked, why didn't you get 100? And so we were taught that, yes, being good is something to celebrate, but why settle for being good when you could be excellent?
What did your dad do?
My dad was a mason. He built houses. So this is also that perfection idea, measure twice, cut once.
Yes.
You don't have unlimited resources. And so making sure that you don't do the thing that cannot be reversed until it's time to do that. Working with my dad in the summertime was a great experience. I can recall one time where we were working on a pool. I'm not a big guy, and as a child I was pretty scrawny, and so I had to carry a wheelbarrow up a ramp or up a plank. The plank is not very large, so probably about this wide, and you have to balance the wheelbarrow, which is heavy. And I failed at that, and I kind of overturned the entire wheelbarrow into the pool.
Oh, and you went with it, I'm sure, too.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Just the wheelbarrow. Just the wheelbarrow.
just the wheelbarrow with the contents into the pool. And, that was an opportunity where he could have just been furious and mad, but he wasn't. We talked to the owner about what had transpired. We did the necessary things to be able to clean the pool, to ensure that anyone that was going to get into the pool wouldn't experience any of the side effects of having cement in there. And then we completed the job with excellence. And so even when performing or trying to achieve excellence, you might stumble along the way. That's no excuse not to complete the job and still do the best that you can do.
Along that vein, you have a passion for education.
That's correct.
You are very active in that as part of your career. Tell us where that passion for education comes from and what is it that you do here at Loma Linda?
I think part of that passion comes from something that God has given me, this desire to want to be able to help and to make a difference and to help people be able to achieve the goals that they want to be able to achieve or to receive in life. Part of that also comes from my mom. So she used to tell us all the time that because we were able to understand things with ease in many instances, that we had a responsibility to lift up the people that were around us. And she would frequently tell us, on your climb to success, take someone's hand and pull them up. You never know when you might stumble, but if you've been helping people along the way, you may not fall all the way to the ground. Someone might catch you on the way. And so it's one of the principles that she taught us that I think helped to fuel our desires to want to be active and to want to give back to people that were in our vicinity and around us. As it pertains to education, currently I'm one of the co-block directors for the School of Medicine for the cardiology and cardiovascular and cardiopulmonary block. One of the things that I love about being able to teach is it's not necessarily just academics, but you also get to infuse in our students at a pretty early age in their medical career the need to be excellent, but also to have compassion. It's one thing to know what you're doing and to be good at it. It's another thing to make people feel like you care. And I think these are two different aspects of the curriculum. Yes, you need to know all of the sciences. You need to understand the physiology of what's going on. But you also need to be able to relate to people on a personal level at times in their lives where they are really, really not at their best.
Yeah. How do you do that?
I like to stop and think about how I might feel if I were in the position of being a patient or of being someone who is in the need at that point. Kind of how would I want to be treated? Would I want someone to walk in and talk down to me? Or would I want someone to simply just tell me what the plan is going to be? Or would I want to feel engaged? Would I want to feel like I have an active role or an active responsibility in what the outcome of my life is going to be. I think entering the room in that way, a way of humility where as a physician, I don't know everything. Yes, I might be an expert in medicine, but the patient, the person that I'm coming in to see, is an expert in themselves. And so being able to put both of those things together and recognize that both parts are vital to the healing of the person that we're taking care of is an important aspect of the care that I try to provide.
That's incredible. I feel like so often it feels like medicine is, you kind of feel like a number sometimes. It's really easy to just feel like, oh, I'm the next person that they've got to come in and see. And it seems like you're taking time to not only teach the next generation this skill and this humility, but you're practicing it yourself.
And I think this is one of the hard parts about medicine. It is making sure that you don't lose yourself while you're trying to help other people, and making sure that you are spending the necessary time to be able to build the relationships that will help people with their healing. There certainly sometimes is a dichotomy in the sense that sometimes there are hospital administrations that might push you to just kind of want to see people like you're at a factory. But trying to push back a little bit on that idea and hold firm to being able to spend time with patients and spend time with people, right?
Yeah.
Is important and an important aspect of their healing.
You know, the secret sauce is that the patient that you're seeing now has to feel that their concerns are your only concerns for the entire day.
Yeah, that's it must be so hard with the caseload you're carrying.
But that's not their burden.
Yeah.
That's my burden.
That's the physician's burden. And so you have to be able to separate the chaos that may be going on around you with the fact that this is my responsibility right here, right now. We all have cases in our lives that impact us in very profound ways. One of the first cases I had was a third-year medical student where I saw a patient with a cirrhotic liver, and I went home and I came back to see him and he was gone. He had a massive variceal bleed overnight and died. I will never forget that patient. I know exactly the room number he was in. And my question for you is, do you have an experience like that that is one of those imprinted experiences in your life?
I think I have several. Can we talk about maybe two?
You can talk about as many as you want.
As many as
I want to.
All right, so we're going to be here a long time. So I can think of two very distinct, I guess, patient experiences that occurred during my residency training while I was at UAB.
What's UAB?
University of Alabama in Birmingham, where they preach their motto is excellence without ego, becoming the best version of yourself, but it's not about you.
Sounds just like you. It sounds like a motto that's perfect for you.
That's wonderful.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And to rub shoulders with people who are kind of at the top of their careers, but they view you as a colleague, not as, some little lowly student or little lowly resident. They view you with respect and they want to invest and see you grow and develop. That's what we love about medicine. So getting back to my patient, this was a lady that I met with stage 4 cancer, and she was undergoing chemotherapy and treatment for her malignancy. And as a consequence of her treatments, she was beginning to develop a lot of swelling. And she wore a wedding band on her left ring finger, and that finger had become quite swollen. And I had talked to her previously about the fact that because it was so swollen, we were having difficulty getting the ring off, and that there might come a point where we would need to cut the ring off if we noticed that she was starting to develop some negative effects from that ring kind of being so tight on her finger. Well, that day came. And I went in and I talked with her, and she knew that it could potentially come. And so I was able to get the equipment, put it under the ring, and as I was talking to her, I think we kind of had a soul moment. As a physician, I was able to enter into a portion of her life that she wanted to share. And I was able to listen. And then I stopped and I asked her, where do you find solace? And what do you do to find peace in a moment like this? And she talked about the fact that she loved music and she loved hymns. And one of the hymns that she really, really loved was In the Garden. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. And that is the song that I sang to her as I cut that ring off of her finger. And, when it was done, I cried
Oh, yeah.
because I cry. But, this was a moment in time where I feel like time kind of stood still in that instance. And we were able to share in something that was more than just medicine. This was a healing of souls.
Yes.
And so that's something that I will never forget.
How do you bring that forward to your patients today?
So you cannot necessarily walk into every room and just open up and sing. But there are periods in time where you have to listen with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I can think of a more recent experience just here at Loma Linda, where I entered into a patient's room and they had received bad news. And I really didn't know how to engage with them in that particular moment. I didn't know what to say. And so I sat there, I put my hand on her knee, and I just sat and I listened. I shouldn't say sat, I stooped on the ground. and I listened. She was kind of sitting at the window looking out. And there were periods of time where it was just silence. And in those moments in my mind, I'm praying like, Lord, what do I say? And the Holy Spirit didn't give me anything to say, so I didn't say anything. And then after that moment was done, I told her, because of my old knees, it's going to take me a while to get up. And then I exited her room. But a few days later, we were able to talk about that particular experience. And the thing that stood out to her the most was the silence and the touch. Sometimes we feel that we have to do something, but sometimes it's in the stillness that you can actually bring a lot of healing. So that's a second, more recent episode. A third episode is not necessarily as glamorous, but it still has left a deep impression on my mind and on my heart. So I had a patient in my first year as a resident at University of Alabama in Birmingham. She was suffering as a consequence of a blood-borne malignancy, and she was dying. And we knew that she would not survive. Up until that point, we had been very, very aggressive in her care, and we were doing everything that we could to try and help her to live. But we knew that it had come to a point where she would not survive. And in that moment, we arranged for a family meeting. Myself and my attending sat down and talked with the family. And in that instance, some of the most powerful words were said to me. They said, there's a special place in hell for physicians like the two of you. And
Wow.
it made me stop. And one of the reasons why it made me stop is because in that instance, we were truly trying to do everything that we could do to try and help this family. But at the same time, you had to recognize that this was the language of pain. This was not an indictment on myself. It was not an indictment on our team or my attending. This was the language of pain that was being spoken to us. And as physicians, we had an option. We could choose to back off and just disappear, or we could choose to be present in that moment. And in that moment, my attending kind of led how to be present, even when you're going through a situation that is very, very awful.
Yeah.
Ultimately, she passed away. And after her death, I sat down with her family and we talked. And at the end of that, we were able to hug. This is the first patient whose funeral I ever attended. I drove about an hour from UAB to attend her funeral and talk with her family in that instance as well. I think that as physicians, we are given such a gift to be able to enter into people's lives at the worst moments. And we have been given the privilege to be able to try and bring hope and healing, to ease suffering as best as we can. And we have a choice. We can either step up and engage in every level, or we can kind of leave people to try and figure it out on their own. I'm a physician that chooses that it is my responsibility to try and bring hope, healing, love, compassion into every situation and into every patient encounter, and make sure that when people have an experience or an encounter with me, that they see the Jesus and the Christ that I serve.
Amen.
Beautiful.
What's your dreams for the future?
That's a great question. Ultimately, I'd love to go back home to Bermuda. Bermuda is the place that gave birth to me. Her people, they're the ones who have poured so much into me as I was growing up, whether it's my school teachers in academy school and elementary school, or if it was my church family. These are people who have a genuine interest in seeing me be successful and succeed. And I feel like it is my obligation to return to this place, the most beautiful place on earth, and give back to my community in a way that is meaningful. Ultimately, as an interventional cardiologist, I would love to be able to bring a cath lab home to Bermuda and be able to take care of patients who are suffering some of the most severe complications associated with a cardiovascular disease. My dream is that it would probably be a multi-purpose labs where other types of procedures could be performed as well. But even more important than trying to correct the illnesses that people develop, I would love to be able to push towards preventing it altogether. And so I believe that Bermuda is where I will be in the future.
It's kind of like what your mom said about bringing people up and caring.
Evening Rounds was a title of this podcast that we were very intentional about. The opportunity for physicians to reflect at the end of the day has different meaning and different impact. You have a beautiful voice. I think the listeners got to hear a couple lines. We didn't even touch on this about truly you're professional in more than one genre of the world, and one is medicine, the other one is in musicianship. I guess I would like to ask that the first song that comes into your heart, without warming up or anything, is our health story mission, Evening Rounds meaning. So not to put you on the spot.
On the spot.
But it is. A person who is a singer is always thinking about music in their mind and in their heart. So I want to hear a little bit about what's in your mind and heart right now.
In music?
100%.
Yes.
I would probably go back to one of the first solos I remember doing. It was actually, technically it was a duet because my brother was playing the recorder and I was singing. And the song was Make Me a Servant. So make me a servant, humble and meek. Lord, let me lift up those who are weak, and may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant. Make me one of your servants. Make me a servant today.
A special thanks to the sponsor of Evening Rounds, La Loma, who has provided banking services to the Loma Linda community since 1955. Their support helps us continue bringing you episodes focused on health, story, and mission.